Hi, this is Nancy Damiano, garden girl at 2peasinabucket.com with this week's episode of Scrap Your Stash. This week we'll be talking about journaling cards. It seems like most scrapbook collections these days include at least one pattern paper that looks a lot like this. A grid of 3x4 cards that can be used for a scrapbook page title, a journaling spot, or as a design element. At just over $1, they're a really inexpensive way to dress up a page, which is probably how I ended up with so many. So let me dig into that stash and see what I can come up with. Now this journaling card sheet from the Pure collection is what I based the entire page on. All my colors came from here and I'm going to use most of these cards. I love how there are journaling spots and titles and fun elements. Now, a few weeks ago, actually, garden girl Jill Sprode also did a video on journaling cards, but she used them totally different. She used them actually to tell her story. So if you want to take a look at that, it was in the beginning of June. We're going to do something a little bit different today. For the base of the page, I used this neutral pattern paper by Dear Lizzie. It looks like it was whitewash painted. I see text showing through, and it still has like a very, very pale yellow around the edge. And I didn't want a totally stark white background, so that's why I chose that. And then these are all the patterns from the Pure collection. And I pulled a few of my favorite patterns, not knowing if I was going to have to add more pattern paper other than just the journaling cards. So these were my choices. Some washi tape. These are just strips of washi tape. I love this idea, so I don't have to buy 12 different rolls to get different patterns. And some chipboard. I love that camera and that soda. Now this is the die cut pack, also from the Pure collection. I'm going to keep it really simple and use pretty much everything from the Pure collection. These chipboard photo slides are also from the Pure. And then that just leaves the guesswork of matching and that sort of thing. It's really simple. Enamel dots, always useful. I'm sure that I'll add them. I love these little resin flowers by Studio Calico. I like this for some texture, the cork by Studio Calico as well. These are the Pure, the matching stickers, and the pinwheels. I love that they've already done all the work for me, and I love the gold flecks and the flags. Now the photos are some of my favorites of my son and his cousins down at the boardwalk. I know the boardwalk is something real specific to the East Coast, but this page will also be useful for a carnival or county fair. Now I've cut all of these pictures down to 3x4, so they're the exact same size as the journaling cards. And I have a mix of people shots and scenery shots. Now I've gone ahead and cut out all the journaling cards. I had already done my photos, and when I did that, the first thing I thought of for this 2-page spread was to make a grid. It's just the easiest way to design a page, and then I can concentrate on the decorating and layering, which is the part that I love. So here I'm just going to go through the cards and pick my favorites. I was able to use 2 title cards, and then a few places to decorate. Now I'm going to switch around photos and some of the journaling cards. I am looking at color and patterns. I want to make sure that each element stands out, and that I don't have too much of one color, or that right here I have all my people shots on the top row. I really don't want that. You want to stagger them so that they stand out. That photo of my son in the lower right hand corner is a tight face shot. It weighs more than, let's say, the ticket booth shot, and that's why I want to separate those. After a few adjustments, I'm happy with the color distribution and the photo placement here. So in order to make sure my grid is straight, I've measured 1.5 inches from the bottom edge, and I'm going to draw a straight line, and that way I can line up the cards and glue them down. Now, for my journaling, I decided that I was going to do the journaling right on that white paper on the left and right sides in really skinny lines, almost like bookends, I guess, of text. So I wanted to use that as a design element. So I'm going to just sketch some space there. And so I know when I run it through my printer, I need to come in 8 or 9 inches from the left side, and then I have 1 inch spot. And here you can see how I've run it through the printer. On the left, it is right justified, and on the right, it's left justified, so that I have very straight lines bordering my photos and bordering the journaling cards. I am actually ready to glue down everything down. I only put glue a little bit in the center usually here, because sometimes I change my mind. Actually, I change my mind a lot, and you're going to see this happen with this page. Okay, now it's on to the fun part, the decorating of the journaling squares. I'm going to go through all these die cut pieces and just pick out things that I like and have to do with the theme, like the ticket and also a few chipboard frames. Now I'm going to build some layers here. I love that pink and gold foil frame, so I'm going to use that at the bottom. And then I'll begin to layer. Now when I layer, I usually like to start off with a flat piece, which is that pink frame, and then a dimensional piece, which I have the other chipboard frame, and then another flat piece on the top, which is that label. In between, I've sandwiched the flag as well. I'm not going to glue that down yet, but I am going to move on to the next journaling box. I'm going to try a few different colors here until I find one that I like. There's no wrong one. I just happen to like the gold polka dots in the craft pinwheel. I'm going to add a little bit more of dimension with some cork. Now I'm trying not to glue anything down here because I'm not sure how each box is going to flow quite yet. So I'm just playing around with a lot of different elements at this point, adding a little bit to each of the boxes. And then I'll go back and finish them up later. I decided on some flair for the middle of this geotag sign. I didn't go with that navy because I felt it stood out a little bit too much. There's enough going on here without that also being contrasting. I'm going to add a little bit of shape to this swirled journaling card with some enamel dots, and I'm just going to trace out one of the fan shapes. And that just adds movement and a fun little touch to the page. And it goes with the theme of rides as well. As I was working, I decided to switch the yellow journaling card and the pink one. And the reason I did that was because the embellishment on the yellow card, the big pinwheel, was a little too close to the frame cluster. And they were both very large embellishments. So I decided to switch that pinwheel over to the right side in order to keep the left and right side of the pages balanced. Now I decided to add a label here, right under this geotag. Taking a closer look at the two circles on the page, I decided that the cork laugh element was a little bit too small for that spot. So I decided to use this larger ampersand embellishment to fill up more space. I'm going to add a really small gold foiled label that's from the die cut pack to the bottom of this pinwheel. I'm going to keep it really simple because there's enough going on there. And I'm ready to glue down this cluster here. Now I always like to add a date to my pages, and I decide this little label with the gold foil around it is a great spot, and I'm using my phrase and date stamper by Dear Lizzie, and I'll just stamp it 3 times just to fill up the space. And tuck it under that flare there. I'm going to add a title. These are chipboard and they have little small gold foil polka dots in the middle. I like this font. I like how it matches the font in the journal cards, and it reminds me of the boardwalk. Taking a look at the page, it's not quite finished. It still needs a few more finishing touches. So I'm going to try this chipboard frame and decide that it's a bit too much and doesn't really work. And yet at this point, I just think it looks a little flat, doesn't have enough color, needs a little pop of something. And then I came across this Doodlebug washi tape, which I love. It repeats the polka dots that I have going with the pink frame and the enamel dots. And it also has the perfect colors for this page. So I ran it across the bottom for a little pop of color and shape. One final look at the page, and I'm still really not happy with the swirls on this, so I changed out the direction it was going in, and I like this a lot better. Now, it probably looked just fine the way it was, but to my eye, it just was a little messy, I think, and this looks a little better to me. I'm just about done, and I know that I need one more little finishing touch, and that'll be it. And these are these cool arrow paper clips by 2 Peas in a Bucket, and I'll just add them to 2 of the squares, and that's just going to give me that last little pop of dimension and color that I wanted. Now when I look back at the page, how do you know when it's done? It looks right, it looks finished, it doesn't look like it has any empty or missing spots, and there's a good distribution of color. The only thing I wanted to add was a little more text because I think that one journal card, Fun in the Sun, needed something. So I added a little stamp that says, "Remember this" by Dear Lizzie. And then looking at this last journal card here, I just switched out the flag. The other one was probably fine, but I like how this one matches the Fun in the Sun journal card, and it just looks more like boardwalk to me. One final element. I looked at the white border surrounding the entire page and decided it needed just a little pop of something, movement, and a little bit of color. And so I dropped a few of the Studio Calico sequins on it, and just 3 at the top and 1 on the bottom. And that was just enough to add a little pop to the white background there. Now I hope you find this video helpful the next time you're using journal cards to dress up your pages. Let's take a look at another version of this page. Now here is the one-page version of the layout that we just finished on the boardwalk. This highlights two of my favorite pictures of my niece, and there is a saying about a little girl with a curl, and that's what the story is about. On the picture on the left, she has a little curl there, and I really wanted to highlight these photos. And sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can repeat the same design elements as a page that you already made. So just by switching it from a 2-page to a 1-page and making the base out of washi tape, I completely changed it, but yet I'm using really the same design principles as the boardwalk page. I based the page on white cardstock, a little bit different from the boardwalk page, and I added the pops of color with washi tape. So I used some of my favorite blues, hot pinks, and greens. I got that right from the Mayberry collection. And I just used long strips of washi. I could have made short, small strips considering how the design ended up, but at this point I wasn't sure how I was going to lay out my photos. So that's why I used such long strips of tape. I also left 2 white stripes in the center, but I ended up filling those in because I thought it just looked better. Now, similar to the boardwalk page, I used journaling cards for embellishments. I added chipboard and some cork. Here's another one of those frames from the Pier collection, as well as a vellum die cut. There are a lot less embellishments on this page than on the boardwalk page, but this one really lets the photos shine. Plus, I think that the washi tape background gives us that bright pop of color, some shape and movement to the page. I hope you found this video helpful the next time you go reaching for your journal cards. Thank you so much for watching.